It's week 10 in the NFL, and we've got fantasy questions such as, with Keenan Allen on bye, who's going to step up and disappoint you at wide receiver?
Will Big Ben and the Steelers keep up their aerial assault against Rex and the Jets? Yes.
Will Tony Romo's broken back break your fantasy team's back yet again?
Will fantasy sparks fly, or will we wonder why we bothered watching Cleveland at Cincinnati in the battle for Ohio?
All these questions and more answered on this week's Fantasy War Room live to tape.
Smalley, get your foot off the boat.
You took your son trick-or-treating.
Mm-hmm.
What are your favorite Halloween candies?
It's funny, when I took him, his first trick-or-treating, quick aside, zero interest in candy.
Really?
Wanted to ring everyone's doorbell.
That's,
So people were probably like, oh, that's so nice, your special boy wants to ring everyone's doorbell.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't convince him enough to get the candy, like, Daddy would like some.
just ringing the doorbell.
Yeah, just I doorbell? Yes, son, you can ring their doorbell. Can I have a Butterfinger? I've always been like a Baby Ruth Butterfinger guy. Love them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatchamacallit has been in there. Snickers is a classic.
Sure.
Never going to turn my back on Snickers.
Yeah.
But I think I have a new favorite.
What's that?
The Snickers peanut butter.
Really?
It's everything that you have ever wanted. Because Reese's Pieces is my single favorite candy, but it's not a candy bar. But the fact that you can get that little extra peanut component or peanut quotient, peanut quotient, also a great name for a band or a fantasy team if anyone needs one out there, just saying.
Peanut quotient. You'd have to be a Bears fan.
Vintage, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Loving the peanut butter Snickers. Fantastic.
I'm a Milky Way dark guy. I don't have much of a sweet tooth, so I like the dark chocolate stuff that isn't quite as sweet. I like Payday.
Payday's great.
Yeah, it's just super. I like that savory. You know, like I'm not quite so much into like the sugar overload, quite like that.
Payday's great because you can at once or twice during it, you can just snap a bite into it and look around at people and just be like, "It's got nuts. Hey, I'm just getting some protein."
This is
the original protein bar.
This is basically a protein bar.
It's a power bar.
I'm a little bit of a health nut.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know, just like people that used to, just like the people that just used to house Chunkies, which I was never into.
Yeah, no.
We'll always be like, I got my fruit, it's got raisins in it.
Sure.
Right?
Folks, this is the War Room. I'm Matt Ufford. That's Nick Stevens. Thanks for joining us again today. We're going to talk a little bit about fantasy football, right? That's what the show's about.
As soon as we finish candy talk?
Yeah, I could probably go for an hour on candy.
Oh, I could go for it. I mean, don't even get me started on why they refuse to. They give such good candy bars to Canada and London. It's the first thing I do whenever I cross the border north or whenever I land in Heathrow. Go make sure that I stock up on their awesome chips and their awesome candy.
What kind of candy does England have? What are these?
Oh, God, it's got like money in it. And it's beer. It's so good. No, they have amazing candy.
Really?
Plus, yeah, and also they have potato chips that taste like steak and baked potato.
Wow.
It's like being an astronaut.
I've been to England multiple times, and I've never picked up on this.
Walkers, they like this company. They're these thick-cut chips, and it's like having a steak and potato.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes with a free soccer hooligan fight, too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, take a bite into one and someone just hits you in the back of the head for no reason.
Sounds charming.
Yeah. So how's your fantasy team? Or your fantasy teams?
Teams. They run the gamut. The ones that I've paid the most money for are in the crap hole. Calvin Johnson, sitting out the last month, has single-handedly sunk one of my teams. It started out 3-0 and just nosedived since lost 6 in a row. That one's done. Auction League has gone horribly awry, and I'm like sitting on top of like 3 other leagues, like just sitting pretty, kicking butt every week. 3 other leagues, fantastic.
King of the hill. Nobody's got a chance.
And it's just like those are the ones that didn't cost nearly as much money. My 2 big money leagues, awful.
My biggest money league right now, second place, 7-2. It's also the league that I spend the most time on, just because I'm defending champion as well.
Sure, of course.
And
play for pride.
I feel, exactly. I'm playing for pride. I feel like I could repeat, and it's the biggest money league where there could be, up to 4 figures potentially.
Nice.
Excuse me, only $599 maximum federal government. That's all I would possibly win. And I'm happy with that. This is a tough week, though, because you've
Six
got
teams are on bye.
18.75% of the National Football League is on bye. A lot of, and these are some of the better teams, too. We've got huge tight ends on bye, big quarterbacks on bye.
Yeah.
This is one of those weeks where you're just going to see like 2 or 3 like double asterisks bye on your roster, and if you can get through this week with some of our very handy, solid pickups, you're going playoffs.
Well, let's get into it then with our positional rankings. Kick things off with quarterbacks. Number 1, Peyton Manning. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. 3, Ben Roethlisberger at New York Jets. And this is the one that's a meaty matchup. Ben Roethlisberger, of course, first quarterback in history to throw for 6 touchdowns in consecutive games. 12 touchdowns and no interceptions the last 2 games. The Jets defense has that ratio is 24 passing touchdowns allowed, just 1 interception this season. That is the matchup that I've got Roethlisberger in 1 league, and I'm just enjoying the last couple weeks. I didn't start him that 522-yard, 6-touchdown week, but I started him last week in this.
Well, nobody would have seen that coming against the Colts, but then against Baltimore, in that human car accident of a game that they play twice a year, who would have seen that coming a second time? Now, I'm not really sure where to give it credit. A buddy who's a Steelers fan actually pointed out something that I think a lot of us are overlooking, and this is a little football wonky, but just sort of behind the fantasy, if you will. Sure, they have great receivers. They do a great job of drafting receivers there. Yes, Tony Brown is right now probably the best wide receiver in football. Roethlisberger is playing the best football of his life. He's getting along with Haley. Snoop hasn't sent a swear-filled Instagram in weeks. All these things. Do you know what it is? He's got all the time in the world, which he never has.
He's always had to like make throws with like 3 defenders hanging off him before.
It's the Munchak factor, because Mike Munchak has coached that offensive line to not just credibility, competence.
Yeah.
They're playing fabulous football. It's like I think it's either 2 or 3 times a decade somebody throws for 6 touchdowns in an NFL game. To do it back to back and now have a chance to go for the troika, for the trifecta.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. If there's a team that would allow it, it would be the Jets defense.
If he throws for 6 touchdowns Sunday, like I hope they stop the game, girl in a bikini, big check, maybe like a bear comes out and starts doing backflips on a pedestal.
I think maybe the girl in the bikini is the wrong idea.
Oh,
Don't want to let her within arm's reach.
All right, maybe, how about let's get the same guy who presented the Chevrolet to Madison Bumgarner at the end of the World Series.
Technology and stuff.
He was tanked.
He wasn't. He was just super nervous.
You think
he was nervous. He's not used to being on TV.
Hey, Bradison, here we've got a...
It's like Chris Farley interviewing a Beatle.
So, if you wrote... Remember when you wrote Let It Be?
Remember that time?
That was
won
awesome.
World Series MVP?
So awkward. Anyway, Big Ben, obviously Sunday is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Game might be closer than people think because there are a couple of huge defensive injuries for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later.
Drew Brees versus San Francisco. Drew Brees at home. San Francisco might lose that game. That we're looking at, they could have an under 500 49ers team after Week 10.
I know.
I like Brees in that game. The Niners defense is slowly rounding into shape. They just played a great game against the Rams.
Not the defense's fault that they lost.
Defense's fault. But again, Brees at home gets a full 100% confidence every single week.
Last year, though, it did take a very questionable call for the Saints to pull off the victory when the Saints and the Niners played. This is sort of becoming one of those, like the Niners and Saints, they're in two different divisions in the NFC, but this is sort of becoming one of those annual rivalry games.
Yeah, and they met in the playoffs a couple years back.
Of course. There was that whole, it was either Patrick Willis or Navarro Bowman sacked him and just cut the hand bounced off the shoulder into the side of the helmet. That was garbage.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think Brees. It's 2 good games in a row. Well, last week was a good-ish game. Week before, obviously against Green Bay, great game. So I'm looking forward to a big night from him.
There are in our SB Nation fantasy bot rankings here two rankings that I have some questions with. Number 5, Matt Stafford versus Miami, and number 9, Ryan Tannehill at Detroit. This one game is, I don't know about those 2 rankings because the Dolphins and the Lions are the 2 stingiest teams against quarterbacks. Lions are number 1 against fantasy quarterbacks. Dolphins are number 2. And so I would not be surprised if both quarterbacks struggled, if that tended to be a lower scoring game. So 2 very, very good defenses. Now, the Lions do get back Calvin Johnson, of course.
Right. Megatron factor in play.
But I'm not sure that's a top 5 start right there.
Well, but now look at this, though. So let's say you take Matt Stafford and you move him down. You're probably still starting him because you're so excited about Megatron coming back.
Sure.
There's a little Christmas Eve excitement.
Yeah.
There's a little fourth date excitement, with Megatron coming back. Like, oh, well, she told me things might get interesting. But if not, let's say you bump him down. You got Romo there. He's probably going to play, but with the bad back, who knows how he's going to be. I mean, are we talking about bumping Matt Ryan or Jay Cutler?
Here's the thing. If I were a Tony Romo owner, I would be seriously concerned. The Jaguars do everything poorly except rush the passer. That's the one thing they do really well is they get to the quarterback. And it's the Jaguars. You don't have to start Tony Romo. I know that they're in do or die mode right now. The Cowboys are worried about the season going in the hole. But, man, I'm just... it's almost as if the Dallas Cowboys have somewhat questionable leadership.
It is.
Yes.
It's almost like that questionable leadership is being undermined by a very, shall we say, an owner who puts his hands in the honey pot once too often.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, he does really seem to. It's just a mess. I mean, but at the same time, though, like, if there was ever, first of all, it's in London, so it's already a weird game, and two, Brandon Weeden just stares receivers down.
Oh, he was awful.
You want to talk about, like, the creepy guy across the room that's just like, he's been staring at you for 5 minutes.
Listen, Brandon Weeden, if you want to sink the Cowboys, that's fine. I'll watch and be entertained.
Gladly.
But as a Des Bryant owner, I will not stand for you sinking Des Bryant's value. That's ridiculous.
2 for 22 and a touchdown last Sunday. Great. The touchdown was a redeemer, but if not...
First 8 targets, Bryant had 0 catches. And that's not Des Bryant's fault.
No.
That would be on the
pretty
quarterback.
large catch radius.
Yeah. Let's go outside the top 10. Here's the one that I am salivating over, and I am one of very few people who's super excited that Mark Sanchez is getting his first start in the NFL since 2012. Versus Carolina, get this, Panthers give up the 7th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Fantasy quarterbacks are averaging about 20 fantasy points per game against the Panthers. Sanchez was good. He had 9.2 yards per attempt against the Texans. Granted, they were down their starting cornerbacks, but you know what? I believe in Chip Kelly. I believe in the Chip Kelly system, and he can take garbage and mold it into a very nice little statue.
Yeah, somebody can take chicken blank and turn it into chicken salad pretty well, and that is Chip Kelly. So old Bobby Buttfumble comes into the game last weekend. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. All right.
One of them was fluky.
Sure.
Of course, he also threw a couple more passes directly into defenders' hands, and they dropped them.
They should have had.
But, that's also part of that is like he also hasn't played in a game since 2012.
Also, there's a lot of green on the field. There's green on his team.
It's very confusing.
Blue and white looks a lot like green, depending on if you're colorblind.
Yeah.
Give Sanchez a little more time to take the job. Look, he's not great. This is not going to be the revisionist historian fantasy football show. However, this is the kind of quarterback who really seems, I hate to say it, kind of perfect for Chip Kelly's offense.
Yeah, sure.
He's got a little more consistent in college, and he's actually won playoff games. These are the best weapons he's ever had in the pros. And Carolina gave up a bazillion fantasy points to Aaron Rodgers a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm totally fine starting Mark Sanchez this week.
I'd pick him up.
I would absolutely pick him up. I'm going to place waiver claims for him as soon as the show is done filming. I'm excited about Mark Sanchez.
And everyone should have the exact same reaction when, if they get him, they just have to, look at him and just be like, what are you doing here? And then laugh and just be like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
I said I was never going to do whippets before 9 a.m. again, but all right, Sanchez, let's party.
Joe Flacco just ahead of Sanchez on the rankings. Joe Flacco versus Tennessee. The Titans. I don't know what to expect out of Joe Flacco. I feel like Joe Flacco. I would rather play put a lot of my money on dice games in a Vegas casino than start Joe Flacco every week at quarterback.
Yeah.
I just don't know what I'm going to get out of it. Which Joe Flacco shows up? No idea.
Well, the Joe Flacco that showed up the last couple weeks has been kind of bad Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Like the kind of Joe Flacco that does post-game interviews and just accuses the world of not really having any confidence in him, just being a perpetual sourpuss.
Yeah.
But you know what? 2 interceptions every week. 2 weeks ago, had no touchdowns and 2 picks in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He got smoked by Roethlisberger last Sunday.
Yep.
He's got all of his receivers back. Owen Daniels is back after only a week after he had his knee scoped. So there's no reason. There's no reason to there's no reason to make excuses other than the fact that he's just not playing that well.
Yeah, well, he's at home against Tennessee. He certainly has the opportunity to do some good there. We'll see. That would be a litmus test for me. But again, I'm not dumb enough to own Joe Flacco in any leagues, but if I were, this is, I guess, a matchup where I'd give him a go.
We've got two of the top 3 quarterbacks on a bye this week with Luck and Brady, so obviously this is the kind of week where you're like, oh, should I grab Dalton? Should I really get Sanchez? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And a couple guys who aren't on the top 15, Dalton, Palmer, and Eli Manning round out the top 15. Russell Wilson didn't make it. He's home against the Giants. He got a really disappointing last couple of weeks. And another player who's been disappointed the last couple of weeks is Cam Newton, and I think they'll both have good weeks. The Panthers, again, on the road against the Eagles, but the Eagles can't cover anyone. And Kelvin Benjamin roaming free in the Eagles secondary. I think Cam Newton has a good game.
Disappointing week last week from Kelvin Benjamin, though. 2 for 28. That was a tough one against the Saints at home. But that Thursday night turnaround, that may have, I mean, that's got to be weird for a rookie receiver who's played way more than he thought.
Night. All bets. Right. I don't, again, try to avoid playing anybody on Thursday nights. But, yeah.
I should also I would like to congratulate myself from a day ago because I said after finishing these rankings, I was like, Ufford is going to mention Russell Wilson as the first quarterback not on the board, and you did.
Yeah.
But last Sunday, all right, let me ask you this. Do you have any idea why that, I mean, I know that there was the Percy Harvin ruckus and whatnot, and they lost Golden Tate in the offseason, but why not a single touchdown last week?
Yeah, no, it's
what's going on?
He's not as accurate as he's been in his first 2 years. So some accuracy problems. The Seahawks don't have much quality wide receiver outside of Doug Baldwin. Jermaine Kearse is still a project. He's got some talent, but he's still a project. They've got a lot of guys in progress. They're rookies. Paul Richardson. They're still not polished. Ricardo Lockett is a situational guy. Their tight ends have had a couple bad drops, and Wilson's missing some throws. And so right now, that's an offense that I don't trust a lot. But again, it's one of those things. Your baseline for Russell Wilson is not that high anyway. Like, on a good week for Wilson is going to be 225 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And so where you get that extra value is an extra 40 to 50 yards on the ground, maybe a rushing touchdown.
Reminds me of Brady's 2002 season when somebody who just like absolutely accelerated to the top of the mountain so quickly, and then they got there in their second year, and everyone was like, whoa, well, I guess we should probably just start raising our expectations for you.
Yeah.
And then it seems like sometimes players have to play with those heightened expectations, and that burden is a bit much.
And I'm being a little bit unfair to Russell Wilson. The injuries on the Seahawks offensive line have certainly affected that as well, too.
I still have high hopes for him making a big bounce back.
Likewise, for both personal and fantasy reasons.
Both are allowed.
All right, let's move on to running backs. We can breeze through the top 5 here. DeMarco Murray at Jacksonville. By God, yes, the best running back in the NFL.
Jacksonville on Stratford.
Yeah, Jacksonville on Stratford. Again, if we get a lot of Brandon Weeden time, everybody on the Cowboys, their value goes down. But with Tony Romo starting, and they're trying to protect Tony Romo's back, we're going to see even more DeMarco Murray, and possibly even some Joseph Randle in garbage time, too. So I would look at Joseph Randle as a potential start if you're hit hard by the bye weeks. Moving on to number 2, LaShawn McCoy versus Carolina is a good matchup. Marshawn Lynch at home against the Giants. Forte at Green Bay. Forte's been fantastic the last couple weeks. And Jamal Charles, 7 touchdowns in his last 5 games. They're all starting your top 5 running backs. That's not anything worth discussing.
Not missing a beat. Eddie Lacy could work. I'm not sure who he would displace. He's the number 6. Obviously, he's got a full maximum start. Week of rest, which is going to be good for a very physical, heavy guy like himself. Chicago Bears.
Defense is in
Score
shambles.
all over. And now they lost one of their best D linemen when Lamar Houston decided to celebrate sacking the Patriots' backup quarterback late in the 4th quarter of a game they were trailing 28 by.
You got to express yourself.
You do. He automatica grammatica the rest of his season.
Yeah. And then Andre Ellington, who's been a good start every week.
Just if there's a dink, there's no dink and dunk for a running back, but like the way he accrues points every week, it's like the same sort of like mix and match. Like it's like 53 yards rushing, 7 passes caught, 78 yards. Some weeks a touchdown, some not, but it's always like 12 to 19 points, which is great.
Yeah, you're looking at basically there's always going to be about like 120 yards from scrimmage, maybe 100 yards from scrimmage, and a touchdown. And like he's just getting it done. And it's like maybe it's not the most impressive yards per carry, but like Yeah, it's just really effective.
It's a deli buffet of fantasy points.
Yeah.
I don't mind if there's like cold sesame noodles, you know, like some pork chop, maybe some candy on the plate. That's fine. I'm totally good with that.
16 minutes in the show before you got a food metaphor in.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We started with candy, though.
We did.
Oh, food
we did.
metaphor.
True,
Fair
true.
enough.
Rounding out the top 10, Ronnie Hillman at Oakland. Jeremy Hill in place of Gio Bernard Thursday night versus Cleveland. Had a fantastic first start. Again, playing the Jaguars will do that. And then Le'Veon Bell rounds out the top 10. Again, nothing much there that really moves my world. At number 11, I think that this guy, Bobby Rainey, is going to have like a probably top 5 or top 6 performance this coming week. 20 touches for 120 plus yards from scrimmage last week. Falcons give up the most fantasy points to running backs. I think Bobby Rainey's going to have himself a nice week against the Falcons.
The Falcons' defensive line is honestly made of marzipan.
And
it's terrible.
It helps that it's Doug Martin is finally on the outs. We've seen that.
Poor muscle hamster. It started so well for him in 2012.
You know, I'd feel a lot worse for Doug Martin if I hadn't owned him in one league this year.
Oh, he burned you?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I didn't have high expectations that much. I kind of backed into it to that kind of ownership. But there's a little bit of a threat from Charles Sims, but I think that like Bobby Rainey's going to be the man. He's showed that he's the most capable running back there.
I know. He had a great game again. That 56-14. He actually had a lot of yards in Atlanta.
Yeah.
2 fumbles. So if he doesn't cough up the ball this week, he could be. He easily could crack the top 7.
Yeah.
Could have a big week.
And then Justin Forsett. He's another solid play every single week. Not every single week, but for the most part. Justin Forsett, one of the nice fantasy surprises this year, particularly if you went all in with Ray Rice.
Oh.
Frank Gore at New Orleans. I'm surprised that he's all the way down at 13 there.
The San Francisco offense is a mess.
Yeah.
It is an absolute mess.
It's the offensive line that's just letting them down.
They cashed in on the coach. Is everybody done? They're all questioning themselves.
I certainly hope so.
I do too. That locker room has got to be the dinner table after mom and dad fight. It is just going to be cold stares and clinking silverware.
Rounding out the top 15, Ben Tate at Cincinnati. I disagree with this. He has looked terrible. Terrence West has been encroaching on his touches and doing more with his touches. I don't like Ben Tate in a timeshare on short rest Thursday night. No thanks. 15, Denard Robinson. This is where, 3 straight games of 100-plus yards from scrimmage.
Might work his way back up. It's legit. This is happening. This isn't a fluke anymore. This isn't just a one-week wonder. Denard Robinson is the starting running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I was incredibly skeptical when it happened 1 week. And 2, I was like, surely this is a fluke. 3 weeks in a row, 2 touchdowns in 3 weeks. Dallas allows 4.6 yards per carry, among the worst in the league. You can run on them, and Denard Robinson might just be doing that.
And then, you know what? There's going to be a run on Denard Robinson jerseys in London, and they're all going to be like, oh, did you see the game played by Denard? Oh, Robinson with a smashing game at Wembley. Denard is quite good. Did you know he used to be the quarter thrower? He was the ball toss at Michigan. Apparently everyone speaks like somebody whose audition tape for Downton Abbey should be burned, so my apologies, everyone.
16 through 20 look like this. Lamar Miller at Detroit, Boobie Dixon versus Kansas City. Kansas City has not allowed a rush touchdown, period, this year.
And that's without their best defensive line, Mike DeVito, good old Mikey D.
I would say Dontari Poe is better.
Oh, second best.
Yeah.
Excuse me, second best. Oh, Dontari, but you know what, actually? I should have said their best defensive lineman who's actually the size of one person.
Yes.
Have you ever seen Dontari Poe's legs? If you just hung them upside down and took the red pants off, it would look like a side of beef. He is the largest human being I've ever seen.
He's a big man.
He's a huge person.
So I don't have high hopes for Anthony Dixon or Bryce Brown for that matter. Joique Bell versus Miami. Andre Williams at Seattle. That's a possibility of Rashad Jennings back, maybe not.
Right.
But Seattle is best in the league in yards per carry against running backs. So I don't have high hopes for any New York Giants running back. And then Chris Ivory versus Pittsburgh rounds out the top 20.
Now here's where Chris Ivory may actually be able to poke his head through into the top 15 or so. We've got Troy Polamalu. It was just announced today that Omar Epps.
Osteoporosis.
Omar
so
Epps.
sad.
Is that really what it was?
I don't know. Yeah, I just figure it is.
Oh,
Troy
oh,
Polamalu.
degenerative hair disease. Yeah, he's got island curl syndrome. No, Polamalu is out, and so is Ryan Shazier.
Oh, yeah. The Steelers' defense is the opposite of their offense right now.
Right.
It's
not very good.
No, sir.
But when you're scoring 50 points a game, you don't have to worry about that. Do the Jets make this a closer game?
I certainly hope so.
Just for fun.
I hope for good things for the Jets. I don't revel in their sadness. Well, I do for a couple weeks, but then I want them to be a little bit competent, just so that they stay part of the conversation.
Are you feeling all right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Rex Ryan, at the end of the season, we're not going to have Rex Ryan to enjoy anymore. Don't you remember fun-loving, confident Rex Ryan?
Sure.
The New York Jets broke him. We don't get the fun-loving Rex Ryan anymore.
But they'll do this to anybody.
Oh yeah, it's a tainted organization.
The flu, the flu will do this to everyone. Just give everyone the flu for 3 days. Like the third day, even the person with the rosiest disposition will just be an absolute bear.
Yeah, it's no mistake that Mark Sanchez looked competent in a different uniform.
Yeah, he looked like he was having fun.
He just had serious Jets disease.
He did. You should probably talk to your doctor about serious Jets disease today.
A couple players that were outside of the top 20. Matt Asiata, 3 touchdowns in Week 10. The only NFL player with 2 3-touchdown games this season is Matt Asiata.
That is mind-blowing.
That's a crime against fantasy football.
Matt Asiata is the touchdown vulture running back of
10 rushes for 26 yards and 3 touchdowns. I hate you, Matt Asiata. I don't even own Jerick McKinnon in any leagues. I don't even own him, and I still hate Matt Asiata on principle.
It's like being angry. It's like just being angry at a kid that you're friends with or that you know in high school, just because he gets to do fun things because his parents are rich. Like Matt Asiata, it's the one. Here's the ball, dude. Come on, earn it.
Give me 4 chances from the 1-yard line, and I could find a way to score a touchdown in the NFL.
What you just said was a lie.
I would be a broken person. But
you would be have you ever watched one of those Mercedes-Benz commercials with the crash test dummy in slow-mo, and when it hits the wall, the dummy just turns this way and the neck snaps off? It's just a disaster.
That crash test dummy could score a touchdown in the NFL. Also absent from the top 20, Mark Ingram, curiously. I guess, we're afraid of the San Francisco defense.
What happened? No, sometimes, you know what happens? Have you ever sort of copied something, and then you deleted it, but you meant to paste it somewhere else up higher?
Sure.
And then the phone rang.
Yeah.
And then there was a TV show that needed to get watched, and you're like, oh, now suddenly I'm hungry. And then you go back to
that's how Mark Ingram is outside.
And that's how Mark Ingram is there, and Ben Tate is at 14. Mark Ingram should be, I would say, Mark Ingram on these rankings would be 10, Le'Veon Bell 11, Bobby Rainey 12.
Worth noting that the
2 big weeks in a row.
The Texans are on bye as we talk about running backs, and of course our man Arian Foster with a groin injury. Differing reports we're going to see from the MRI whether he's injured, but I'm not sure if I'd place a waiver claim for Alfred Blue, but I'd look to pick him up in free agency come Wednesday, Thursday.
Just in case. Well, you should always, with your star running back, like I've been carrying on one of my teams, I've been carrying James Starks all year. I don't start him, even though I know he scored in a couple of games. You got to carry Dunbar. If you're an owner of DeMarco Murray, you should always have a handcuff if you've got a top 5 or top 6 running back.
Sure.
So it would be worth it for that, especially if you have a spare slot.
Yep. All right, I think that's it for running backs.
Hey, once again, there are a lot of holes, and we just helped you fill them.
Yes, sir. All right, wide receivers. Let's just buzz through the top 5 right here. Demaryius Thomas, Antonio Brown at the Jets. Oh, my God, that's tasty.
That's just, God, you want to talk about just guy number 1 heading into the Houston 620. He is just ready for that one.
Yeah. Jordy Nelson, number 3. He's got the Bears. That's another good matchup. Calvin Johnson versus Miami. I don't know. Brent Grimes has played well. And again, it's not that anybody can actually stop Calvin Johnson.
Right.
But
he's rested. He's healthy. This could be, triple coverage even, so still he can go up and get the ball. And now, I know Brent Grimes is going to reward himself with a junk cake if he has a great game against Calvin Johnson. In case you guys don't know, all of his birthday cakes have a picture of dude units on them. Oh. You ever see those?
Oh, yeah.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrifying. Yeah. The internet should be shut down. It's Megatron. He does this against even the best people, and he's had over a month to heal up the knees, to rest those ankles. I expect maximum Megatron Sunday, even against a quality cornerback like Brent Grimes. I don't care if they roll over Cortland Finnegan as well. He's going to have an excellent game.
I certainly hope so. And number 5, Jeremy Maclin, a revelation this season. And if you'll recall, at the beginning of the season, I said that Jeremy Maclin was going to be great this year.
I don't think I disagreed with you.
Yeah. No.
You may have said it first.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. Oh, hey, did you guys see when Matt went onto the chat board and was like, firsties?
I was the only one who believed in him.
You guys should tune in. That's going to be Matt's new show here at SBNation.com. It's just going to be all the firsties he's ever had. Fantasy everywhere else.
Rounding out the top 10, 6 through 10, A.J. Green versus Carolina. Welcome back, A.J. Green. 44 yards and a touchdown his first time back.
A.J. Green versus Cleveland. I'm sorry, that's a misprint on the matchups right there. But A.J. Green versus Cleveland, getting a little bit better. We're still not going to see him at 100% the rest of the season. But again, as it goes, A.J. Green at 85%, his 85% is still better than most other receivers, 100%.
Correct. And then Julio Jones at Tampa Bay, yes please. Manny Sanders, he has been fantastic this year. He's at Oakland. Des Bryant at Jacksonville. A play if Romo starts, and I don't know if Brandon Weeden happens to come into the game. I would be very, very concerned about that.
He's really, he has got to be, like, just every Cowboys fan right now has got to be on the verge of just being fully apoplectic, just like 6-1, coasting, cruising, here we go.
Losing overtime at home to the Redskins.
You lose to Howdy Doody, and then Arizona comes in and just pistol whips you in front of your home fans.
After gifting you a pick 6 to start the game. Unreal.
For shame.
We call that the Weeden effect.
That is.
Yeah.
When you have a 47-year-old guy start a quarterback, that's what happens.
Yep. And then Sammy Watkins versus KC at number 10. It's
been good.
He's looking like offensive rookie of the year material. I think I'd give him a slight edge over Kelvin Benjamin at this point.
Yeah, he only had 3 catches against the Jets 2 weeks ago, but it was for 153 yards and a touchdown. Would have had 2.
Should have been 2,
if
but
he didn't start.
Yeah, got to celebrate.
Got a little bit.
He was actually looking at the jumbotron too, and still did that.
That's like when they're like, if you've ever watched. Now, I've never done this personally, but like. People that sort of like watch themselves when they make homemade adult entertainment. Oh. I've heard about this. People have told me about this before. That's what Sammy Watkins was doing, basically looking at himself trying to score a touchdown on the Jumbotron at JetLife Stadium. It's just reprehensible.
And then number 11, Alshon Jeffrey at Green Bay. His placement there brings to mind that his battery mate, Brandon Marshall, is all the way down at 20 there. Brandon Marshall. 4th on the Bears in receiving. 4th. You are not paying him that kind of money to be 4th on the team in receiving.
Forte, Martellus Bennett, Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
He's averaging 3.5 catches for 45 yards over his last 4 professional football games played.
Yeah.
Brandon Marshall, a guy who in week 2, probably, that's the bummer of it, is that he gave that noble, heroic performance against San Francisco in week 2. Only had 3 catches, all 3 for touchdowns. Just an incredible comeback. Broke the 49ers for the season, or so it seems, but also kind of broke himself. Ankle has not been the same since. Probably never should have played that night, but he did. And that's when you have to sort of manage those things. Like, now he's not a viable fantasy option. The Bears are kind of screwed up. Calvin Johnson, of course we want to see him run out there every week, because Calvin Johnson at 60% is still better than most receivers at 95%. But now the Lions have saved him, and I bet we get the maximum effect for him. But I'm not sure if we'll see the same Brandon Marshall the rest of the year.
Next up, Mike Evans. He's going up against Atlanta. Now, I will say that young Desmond Trufant is playing really well. He's like probably the only working, capable aspect of the Falcons' defense. And I would think Desmond Trufant might be able to keep Mike Evans somewhat in check. But 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games, 7 catches on 9 targets for 124 and 2 TDs last week. He is he's coming into his own.
His emergence, he was Johnny Manziel's #1 target at Texas A&M, and his emergence is what led to all those rumors of Vincent Jackson possibly getting traded.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. Now, he's a big target.
Now, Vincent Jackson did not get traded, and he's right after Evans on this week's list. He had middling numbers last week, but he's still getting targeted a lot. Mike Glennon is still sending the ball, 6 catches for 60 or 80 yards, I don't know. But like a boring week, but he had, I think, 12 targets last week.
So who gets Trufant? That's the question.
I think I think that like Jackson's going to get him because he's the number 1, right? So I would go with Mike Evans as the better call this week.
Could be a nice week for him.
And then Mike Wallace versus Detroit. Disappointing for a game in which the Dolphins won 37-0. Kind of a disappointing line for Mike Wallace last week versus Detroit. Not going to get a ton of opportunities. And then Roddy White at Tampa Bay is 15. All right, let's round out the top 20 here. Steve Smith versus Tennessee. Sure. Larry Fitzgerald versus St. Louis. Larry Fitzgerald. Resurgent. Everybody thought this was going to be Michael Floyd's year to come back. Michael Floyd is on pace for less than 800 yards this season.
Which after he was a 1,000-yard receiver last year, and with his complete breakout in progress, we thought we were looking at a 1,300-yard kind of year, and Larry Fitzgerald just sort of sitting there like, well, it was fun when I was the number 1, but that's all right.
And now Larry Fitzgerald has broken out.
Resurgent.
And then John Brown has emerged as the better touchdown option. The better
John Brown.
John Brown.
Oh, John Brown.
And his twin, Jerron Brown.
How many of us last week saw Jay Brown touchdown and we're like, I'm so glad that I placed the waiver claim on him. It's awesome. I believed in that little speedy guy. He's awesome.
I saw like a tweet from SportsCenter, what have you, saying Jerron Brown caught a touchdown. That's like, they just got the name wrong.
Someone just got fired in the social media department. It's a worldwide leader.
How'd they get Jerron from John? No, different players.
Yeah. Where's I think 15.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Right. Also not 5'6".
Oh.
But John Brown's really small.
Is he?
John Brown is a small man. That's what the book of John Brown opens. That's the opening line.
We've got Ruben Randall at Seattle at 17. Sure. And then Kelvin Benjamin at Philadelphia, criminally underrated here at 18.
11 days to rest up and prepare because he's been, like we said, college player, becomes like, rarely do you see a college wide receiver become the number 1 target and fulfill the potential. Now, here's what's happened. Mike Evans, sorry, I dropped my pen cap.
Yep.
Mike,
don't mind me over here.
Mike Evans. That's why I wear an adult diaper during the program, because I'm a professional. By the way, this week, War Room brought to you without commercial interruption because we don't need them.
No.
We're professionals.
we can't get sponsors.
This week brought to you without commercial interruption. But I'll tell you what, if we could, we would love to be sponsored by a truck, a salty snack, or an adult beverage. Cheers to you, products of America. Mike Evans hurts himself, gets a couple weeks off, rests the rookie wide receiver knees. Kelvin Benjamin just getting thrown to the Lions by the Panthers every week. The metaphorical Lions, not the actual Lions.
Gotcha.
I think he's a little banged up at this point now, so he probably could have used the almost bye week that he got out of playing on a Thursday night and now going ahead to a Monday night game.
I think Kelvin Benjamin, I'm thinking 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a great week this week.
God, that's just... if that happens, just, music to my sweet ears.
Again, the Eagles secondary is something you can bank on every week. Andre Johnson just had a disappointing game against him, but DeAndre Hopkins went off 116 and a touchdown. I think Kelvin Benjamin's going to have himself a very nice week. And while we're talking about the Panthers passing game, we'll talk about it in tight ends, but also Greg Olsen.
It was just a little one. It was a teaser.
D'Amico Ryan's out for the season, so that's going to open up some more passing lanes underneath.
Now, we got a couple sleepers here, and some of them might actually be available for you to pick up, or at least one will be. We talked about this on the Keepers Waiver Wire edition this week. Don't worry, everybody. Matt will be back hosting Keepers Proper, talking some more fantasy because he needs that in his life.
I do.
You want him on that wall, and we need him on that wall.
Yes, sir.
Martavis Bryant.
5 touchdowns in his last 3 games. What a coming out party.
Last 3 games, only 3 games. He's been active for 3 games, 5 touchdowns, 2 against Baltimore. Awesome name, awesome hands, awesome speed.
Yeah.
Easily now become, like, everybody had Marcus Wheaton pegged as the number 2. Like, they drafted him higher. Martavis Bryant they drafted later. And somehow this kid has just jumped up and become like Ben's favorite red zone target. Antonio Brown scores from anywhere. The stands, the sideline, the parking lot, everywhere.
Yeah.
Martavis Bryant is a red zone demon.
He is. He is. And I'm kind of kicking myself because he had that first game, and I was like, flash in the pan. We'll see about that. Because I'm such a conservative player that I don't want to just, like, react to like, whoever has, like, one flashy week.
Right.
And my slowness in reacting to that makes me a little bit upset because Martavis Bryant has been fantastic.
It cost you, right? So somebody else was like, hey, my team's a hot mess. I'll make a spec pickup. I'll swoop in and grab them off waivers. If he's still there, as of yesterday late afternoon, he was still available in more than 50% of all Yahoo leagues. So he's out there for the
tasty.
Pickens people. It is tasty.
And you've also got Brandon Cooks on your list. Anquan Bolden. He's the
only one who showed up for the offense last week for San Francisco.
And he is really Michael Crabtree has been largely non-existent. Vernon Davis has disappeared from the Niners passing game. Less than 25 yards per game over the last 5 weeks.
Weird.
Anquan Bolden's the guy I trust from the Niners passing game. And I would ride him. Terrence Williams, very disappointing week. He also got the Whedon effect. What?
You were like, Anquan Bolden, I'll ride him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a metaphor, Nick.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just...
For sex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Yeah.
Bolden's great.
Strong man.
He's a very strong man. He can actually take his own face off. They did at one point.
They did. They had to peel his face off, and then he played 2 weeks later.
2 weeks. Okay, I have a hard time not walking with a limp if I fall and skin my knee, or you wake up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, you stub your toe in the corner of the bed. I need to let people know the next day, God, I stubbed my toe.
He had reconstructive surgery on his jaw and then played football. It was 3 weeks later, I think.
He broke his face. They had to cut the skin off so they could pull his face off his skull, and he played football 3 weeks later.
Yeah, he's a hard man. He is the Terminator. What?
That goes perfectly with I would ride him.
Yeah, I don't understand what's so funny, Nick.
I don't either.
Is there something funny
Somebody
about
making goofy faces over your shoulder?
Is there something funny about me saying that I'd happily ride Anquan Bolden because he's such a hard man? I don't understand what's so funny over there.
Michael Floyd and Terrence Williams. There are all 2 other sleepers, too.
And Percy Harvin, by the way, welcome back to the fantasy fold. 13 targets, 11 catches, 129 yards, plus 8 yards rushing.
Could have a huge week against Pittsburgh, too, considering we already talked about the fact that they're down their best coverage linebacker and their most aggressive member of the secondary. So, if you held on to Percy Harvin long enough or took him as just
longer than was rational, and I finally put him on the bench last week. Then I lost that matchup by 2 points. All right.
Nice.
Good times.
You, sir, are welcome to the Nick Stevens Academy of benching the right guy at the wrong guy at the right time. Like me, who 2 weeks ago benched Emmanuel Sanders just because I didn't think he was going to have a big game, and he went off. That was his multiple touchdown.
Three touchdowns.
3 touchdown game. And don't worry. The 30 points that he had in Yahoo scoring would have helped me win by 25. That's cool. But wait, hold on. Let me cue up my SC on TV
there's
voice.
More.
But wait, there's more. Act now, and you can get Nick Stevens benching him a second week in a row because he played for the Broncos, and I'm a Pats fan, and I went to the game, and I didn't want to watch him do well in person and be satisfied, which he did. Didn't get in the end zone, but he got 10 catches for 150 yards. I lost by the difference he would have made up.
That seems kind of like a baseline for Emmanuel Sanders, is like 10 catches for 150 yards, right?
But you know what I did instead? I listened to myself on last week's episode of Keepers and started Stevie Johnson, him and his 3 points.
Good job, good job. All right, I think that's it for wide receivers. Yeah, good stuff. Let's talk about tight ends. Ooh, tight ends. Number 1 this week is not Rob Gronkowski. Of course, he's on bye. Number 1 is not Julius Thomas at Oakland, but Martellus Bennett.
Couple sleepy weeks in a row. I know he snuck into the end zone on a quick little corner fade against the Pats. He's only been getting like 3 targets a game the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
There's been rumors of enmity between Peyton Manning and Julius Thomas.
Really?
Yeah, they apparently had like kind of an argument on the field, and now there's talk of like maybe they aren't getting along. I don't know.
See, I asked you a couple weeks ago on the show if you thought, for some reason, there was something about Julius Thomas that rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. He looks a little bit like that. He looks a little bit like that evil character that's going to be the new villain in the next Avengers movie. They're making another one, so I guess they all live through this next one. I'm not going to bother going to see it.
Oh man, spoilers!
I know, spoilers everywhere. I don't know. For some reason, he just kind of looks like a jerk. I'm not surprised to hear that.
Made an appearance on Keepers earlier this year. I like you, Julius Thomas. Thanks.
Whatevs.
But number 1 is Martellus Bennett at Atlanta. Certainly a favorable matchup. The Falcons, weirdly, don't even start linebackers. So
I don't know if they have any.
No, they don't. They have They have the rookie guy from Hard Knocks.
There was that freeze last winter, remember?
Lost the entire linebacking core.
Remember that, like all the cars had to park on the side of the road because there was 2 inches of ice on the road?
Yeah, straight up
gone.
Yeah, they lost all the linebackers.
Coy Bierman or whatever his name is. I don't care.
Croy.
Right. His wife just took him and put him on the reality show. Done. Croy. Who named their kid Croy?
It reminds me of Kroll.
It does. I know. If he could actually throw the glaive.
Wow, that's a deep pull.
See, listen, you're gonna get my new show on SB Nation is gonna be deep pulls. You got firsties, and I'm gonna get deep pull.
Yeah. There are very few viewers of the show that will remember Kroll, and certainly they're too young to actually have watched it and remember the name of the spinny blade that he threw around.
Dude, growing up as a child of the '80s, you tell me like. Obviously, we all, and still to this day, want a Millennium Falcon or an X-Wing. Duh.
Yeah.
I always wanted the last Starfighter ship just so I could run the Death Blossom. But right behind that is I wanted a glaive.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why Greg Olsen is the number 4 tight end this week.
The term, you said Death Blossom, and it just made me think of toilet humor. It's like... It's like, I left a Death Blossom in there.
Oh, come on, Upper. Did you upper deck my house again? No, dude. One Death Blossom. You mean it spun in 360 degrees all over my bathroom? Oh, curse your IBS. Okay. I'm still sad about the Cyclops that got killed in the final season.
Jimmy Graham versus San Francisco. He's number 3. Greg Olsen, we mentioned a little bit earlier, we were talking about wide receivers. Greg Olsen at Philadelphia is a great play. Because D'Amico Ryan's done for the season. That's going to affect the Eagles' ability to cover the passing game. I like Greg Olsen a lot. Vernon Davis, not so much. Ice cold recently.
Not great safety play. I mean, you got Kenny Vaccaro, who's got to cover so much of the backfield and does a lot for the Saints, and I think honestly probably the best player in the back end for them. If this is Vernon Davis I know, hold it. If Vernon Davis, he's typically done well against the Saints before. If he can't come back to life again this week, especially with the 49ers season on the line. Hey, everyone else in the NFC West, memo to you. The Cardinals are 7-1 and probably going to go to 8-1 this week. They're good, and their schedule is favorable-ish. So you might want to start winning some games.
Yeah. Again, the Seahawks certainly have their fair share of problems. But as a Seahawks fan, 2 games behind the Cardinals, I'm not still all that concerned. It's still got half the season to go, 2 games head-to-head, and Carson Palmer's their quarterback.
But he looks good.
He does look good. He
looks really good this year.
But, yeah.
I know he's 34, and he's not the most mobile of guys. But this is it's this Bruce Arians factor. I think we're all sort of like...
He's a sorcerer.
He is some sort of magic man. He really is.
He's like the evil sorcerer, like the
He's not evil. He looks like a good sorcerer.
No, he's more like the piggy evil sorcerer.
No, I'm thinking of him like a Mad-Eye Moody or something like that. The 7 of you that are Harry Potter fans like me that just got that and enjoyed it, thank you very much.
You know what? You referenced something from the 2000s, and that is very, very remarkable for you.
Hey, man, I just stomped that reference's yard.
Oh, God. Let's round out the top 10. Jason Witten at Jacksonville, sure. Larry Donnell at Seattle.
Got a touchdown last night.
Got a touchdown in Week 9. And, of course, like I said last week, Seahawks susceptible to tight ends. I recommended Michael Rivera. He showed up with 2 touchdowns against the Hawks.
This is the of all the Lucas claps I've given in my life. This slow clap is so well deserved. Last week, Matt Ufford on this program, which is why when we make our sleeper recommendations, y'all should listen. He said that the Seahawks had given up 7 touchdowns to tight ends, and they were highly susceptible. And guess what happened? Some guy who doesn't even know how to spell his own name right, Michael Rivera, 8 for 38 with 2 touchdowns.
Yes, sir.
Huge.
Know what I'm doing.
And with guys like, and let me say for tight ends too, this is especially large. Thanks for staying tuned this long into the program, everybody. You got Dwayne Allen on the bye this week. You got Dwayne Allen on the bye. Kyle Rudolph, obviously, I think he's going to be back after that, but they're still on the tight end in Minnesota. You've got the best tight end in football, Gronk, on the bye. You also have, there's one other incredibly important tight end that's on the bye this week. Of the 6 teams, who else is on the bye this week?
I don't know, man.
All right, there are 3 really good tight ends on the bye this week.
You're asking me.
Antonio Gates.
Oh, Antonio Gates, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of Old Man Gates is on the bye. So Michael Rivera, if you're owner of one of those guys, if you couldn't grab Owen Daniels, get Michael Rivera.
Who I like this week is, who I like kind of every week, Travis Kelce, I think is my kind of go-to guy because he's really the best pass-catching option aside from Jamal Charles in the Chiefs offense.
You're not a Donnie Avery guy?
I'm not, there is not a Kansas City Chief wide receiver who has scored a touchdown this year.
God, you had the whole offseason to just get one.
They just played the Jets with the worst passing defense in the NFL, and still no wide receiver scored a touchdown.
Unreal.
They tried to throw one to Dwayne Bowe. It got deflected, and it ended up Anthony Fasano catching it on his butt.
Tony Faz?
Tony Fasano, hey, I'm Anthony Fasano. I like to catch the ball in my butt, you know? I'm just sitting around here, the ball gets deflected to me. I got it. Oh, touchdown.
Little butt touch.
Little butt touch.
Little butt touch from Tony Faz.
Yeah, I learned that in New Jersey, right?
Right?
All right.
Yeah, you heard right.
I don't have any. I guess Heath Miller at the Jets. I'd start just because of the Steelers' passing game right now.
Sure. I absolutely would.
Maybe like he's not been one of the preferred targets of Big Ben, but like just by sheer volume runoff, I'd run Heath Miller out there.
The Pittsburgh is probably going to win by so much in that game that Reggie Wayne actually stayed behind to spend the bye week in MetLife Stadium just so he could stand on the sidelines and cry.
Oh,
isn't that nice of him?
That is nice. That is nice.
Did you hear that national anthem from Chris
did.
Bodie?
That's fine.
Fine?
It's fine. It's a trumpet. Whatever.
I thought fatherhood would soften you.
No, sorry. There's only one person who could ever sing the national anthem that would bring a tear to my eye. She's deceased. Whitney Houston, R.I.P.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Donna Summer.
No, she's number 2. All right, let's move on to defenses. I'm done with tight ends.
All right, let's go. Let's go from tight ends to D.
Yes. Number 1 on this list is Arizona versus St. Louis. Now, I'm a little bit torn on this one because the Cardinals, despite their defense is very good, but in terms of fantasy terms, they're the 17th best fantasy defense this year.
Right.
But the St. Louis Rams give up the second most fantasy points to defenses.
And now with Jake Long out for the season, you got to figure that maybe the Cardinals will be able to generate a little bit more of a pass rush. You do get Patrick Peterson back. There's nobody on the St. Louis offense that says, "Oh, quick, how are we going to game plan for blank?"
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that maybe this is kind of one of those games where, with the St. Louis defense playing much better too, that the Arizona defense actually does more of the scoring.
Yeah. At number 2, you've got Buffalo versus KC. What's your thinking on this? Because I feel like the Chiefs have a competent offense. I mean, the Buffalo D is very good, but
the thinking there is, again, there's a whole comportment of reasons why this has come here. Seattle against the Giants, I could have bumped them up a little bit, but the Buffalo defense really hasn't been gashed that bad except for one game when the Pats sort of turned them around with the passing game in the second half. They're coming off a bye. They're going to be well rested. They're home where they play better. And Kansas City is not that dangerous.
True.
So if they game plan and they just sort of fortify against Jamal Charles, I know Alex Smith is
he's mobile.
I even hate saying it, game manager.
But here's the thing: the annoying thing about game managers when you're starting the defense is he's mobile, so he's tough to sack, and he's quick to throw the ball away, so he doesn't throw interceptions or get sacked as much. So I think that it's going to be hard for the Bills to get defense.
I could see them generating a pass rush, though.
Yeah,
Chiefs.
Sure.
I mean, the Chiefs' offensive line is good. Eric Fisher's finally become a legitimate left tackle. I get it, but I don't see them giving up a lot of points in this game.
Okay, I can see that. I like
Seattle should have been there, but they're just inconsistency.
The Seattle defense is finally rounding into shape. They were dropping interceptions a lot at the beginning of the season. They're finally starting to catch those interceptions. They're finally starting to recover some fumbles. They had bad fumble luck at the beginning of the year.
24 points at home against the Raiders is called rounding into shape?
They had a pick-6 touchdown, 2 more turnovers, and a couple sacks. That's 13 points, 13 fantasy points in most leagues.
Okay.
So I think anytime a defense is scoring a touchdown for you, they're doing pretty good work for you.
That's true. Give up 24 points, but at the same time find a way to surpass the double-digit point mark. It's like the Saints didn't look that impressive, but against Carolina, they put up 13 spot last week themselves. Not that I would necessarily play him against San Francisco this week.
I like Baltimore versus Tennessee. That's a good play.
Yeah.
Detroit has been a pretty solid play every single week. We'll see the surging Dolphins if we see good Ryan Tannehill can keep it up against tough Lions.
I know Miami's a better road team.
Of course, Nick Fairley out, so that's going to change. That's going to change the makeup of that defense a little bit. Some other picks as we cherry pick along the way, because there's not a ton of great matchups here. I do like Miami at Detroit. You've got an error-prone quarterback. Matt Stafford can throw himself 2 touchdowns in a game or more. You've got a team with a good secondary. Brent Grimes is playing really well of late, and Miami coming fresh off a shutout. The week before that, they had
37-0.
2 pick sixes against Jacksonville. So Miami is actually the top scoring fantasy defense this year.
You know what I like to call them? The Miami Pound Machine.
I like it.
Not bad, right? I've said worse.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're just keeping up the sexual innuendo here. So that's what your mom likes, the Miami Pound Machine. At number 11, you've got KC. They're at Buffalo. Justin Houston has 12 sacks. Nobody else has as much as 9. I think 9 is the next one. They've yet to allow a rushing TD this year. I think the Chiefs are a great play.
They may jump in the top 10 because at one point this week, I mean, you're definitely starting them because, again, there aren't a lot of great defensive options. But at one point this year, you got to figure Kyle Orton is going to have to just, forget, either his deal with the devil is going to expire, or he's just going to remember that he's Kyle Orton and just throw 3 of the most unbearable picks. For all we know, I mean, Buffalo may only give up 17, but they could only score 10 or 13 themselves.
Worth noting, the Chiefs are also finally getting back Eric Berry in the secondary. So I like the Chiefs a lot this week, and
Buffalo is going to line the sideline with horses, though, since he's petrified of them.
That's messed up.
He's got equinophobia.
Yeah, I know.
So strange.
You know what? I don't have equinophobia, but I do not like horses.
You don't?
No.
They're delicious.
I've never tasted one.
Yes,
before.
you have. Have you ordered Chinese food in New York City?
Oh, bazinga!
Don't you dare drag the Big Bang Theory. Don't you? How dare you? Removes white glove, drops it, slaps Ufford in the face, issues pistols at dawn. Oh, God.
No, they're gigantic, dangerous animals with tiny brains that have sharp hooves. They'll bite, they'll kick, and we're supposed to trust they're skittish as hell. So it's oh, they're such beautiful, majestic animals. Oh, but don't put your hands near them because they bite. Oh, don't walk behind them; they'll kick you. Don't stand in front of them; they'll rear up and cleave your head in two.
Same could be said for either one of us. Hungover, not had your coffee yet. Don't talk to Matt before he comes in the office. Do not make eye contact with Mr. Ufford. Don't be anywhere near his rear side if he's had tacos.
those are all riders in my contract.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
Just saying.
That's fair. Tough but fair.
Not for nothing.
All right, let's close the show with some questions.
All right.
Eric Clark, let's just bang these out real quick. Like your mom.
She did create the Big Bang Theory.
We've gone really lowbrow this show. It's
worth it. It's November.
We've strayed away from
November sweeps. That's how we're gonna get the big rating.
We've strayed away from our bread and butter, which is to say our food metaphors, and gone just straight to your mom and dick jokes. It just is solely sex and farts, which, by the way, could be the name of my next show.
Solely sex and farts. I am still sticking by Firsties.
Okay.
It's gonna be on right after Deep Pull, and it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Eric Clark says, "Is it a stupid idea to start both AJ Green and Mohamed Sanu? Cleveland is the 8th worst against fantasy wide receivers."
The only reason why I would say it's a stupid idea is because
of the Thursday game.
Yeah.
You
have burned. They could each go for 100 yards and a touchdown.
They both scored touchdowns last week.
Right. And they're facing a defense that gives up a lot of touchdowns. Great. 8th worst.
Now, Joe Hayden has done well against A.J. Green in the past.
They do have a little bit of a nasty rivalry going on, which I can't push past the fact that I just do not want to see both of my wide receivers play Thursday night. Because if one of them does well and one doesn't, then you're going to kick yourself. And if they both do meh, then for me, as somebody who just gets way too emotional about this stuff, my weekend's ruined. Yeah, you don't have anything to cheer for on Sunday. Nothing. I'd say yes, start them both, but man, that Thursday game, that's just not good. And
Joe Hayden really did really well against A.J. Green last year.
Start Sanu.
I would start Sanu as well.
I think he scored in 4 games in a row.
He has been a top fantasy option.
And that includes
week
throwing a
this year.
touchdown to Andy Dalton.
He's been fantastic. So yeah, start Sanu, sit A.J. Green. Again, assuming you have other capable wide receivers on your bench. Like this is the assumption that you have other guys that are kind of at that level.
I also might look for Martavis Bryant.
Yeah. Let's go with Ron Turkey. He says, with Calvin Johnson returning, should I start Golden Tate against the tough Miami D? I think
Golden Tate's the perfect guy to get into it with Cortland Finnegan. That's a great cornerback wide receiver matchup.
Oh, that's going to be
two of the biggest dicky dicks to play their respective positions, just getting after it.
Yeah. I think that you need to dial back your expectations from when Golden Tate was the guy for the Lions the last couple weeks, but I'd still start him.
He's not going to go 10 for $150 and a touchdown like he did when Calvin was out. Maybe 6 for 90?
I'd say yeah, like 6 for 70, maybe a touchdown, maybe not. So, but that's not bad. If that's
I wouldn't sit him.
No, not at all. I think play Golden Tate. Bill Barres says, I'm buying into the Steelers. Ben is my new starting QB, and I traded not much for Martavis Bryant. Actually, it says M. Bryant. I'm assuming he means Martavis.
Yeah.
I don't think he's trading for Matt Bryant. Am I an idiot? No, you're not.
No, we're all in.
No, go with them Steelers. Again, like with
sunglasses
Ben,
down.
With Ben
Chips.
Roethlisberger getting actual protection from his offensive line, keep effing that chicken. It's an internet thing. It's a meme from a couple years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, Matt, but you're basic.
You're so up to speed on everything. Whitehurst Beard says, do you start Allen Hurns over Crabtree? Again, the Jaguars are playing in London against the Cowboys.
Do I start third degree Hearns over
Chris Berman in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
He could go all the way to the worst reference possible. Would I start Hearns over Crabtree?
Here's the thing.
You want to know why? Because Hearns has scored in the fall.
Yeah,
This autumn.
Crabtree is a mediocre wide receiver.
Mediocre.
He's
a mediocre wide receiver.
And here's the thing. Hearns is kind of boomer bust. He'll go off, or he might get Orlando Scandrick.
If he draws Scandrick, then he's done.
I don't think Michael Crabtree's a start at this point. I haven't seen enough from him.
What a bummer. Because I know you don't give a flying fiddler's you know what, because obviously as a Seahawks fan, it's like, oh great, terrific. One less thing to worry about. It's sumptuous. But for people that were, he was on the rise earlier in the season, but that ascension is just like leveled off. Actually, no, it's coming down.
Yeah.
That's a Richard Branson owned spacecraft.
All right, let's burn through these quickly here.
Sorry. Yeah. Speaking of burning through it.
Yeah. Ian Balls, good name, says, need a bye week fill-in at QB. Am I crazy for contemplating the Sanchez? We've already been over this. No. Go ahead. Go. Roll with Mark Sanchez.
2 guys to tweet at if it doesn't work out. Next Tuesday morning, we will be standing at the front of either the congratulatory line or the apologetic line.
You know what? And even if I'm wrong, I still feel good about it. I feel like Mark Sanchez probably appreciates somebody believing him for the first time in years. Yeah.
And you've got that excellent sorry not sorry thing down.
I do.
I'm still trying to figure out how to do that.
It's just it's the sarcastic gene. You're just like, oh, I'm sorry. Was my free advice wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forced you to listen to me.
Oh, yeah. Did what I told you to do about your fake football team not work out for you?
Oh,
Go back to Russia.
I hope you feel better. I hope you feel better taking it out on me. Do you feel better sending me a tweet? Way to really stick it to me.
Start selling secrets,
and
Snowden.
Then just be a jerk.
That's
my secret, is to be a real.
I'm out here right now. I am spinning my organ grinder, tap dancing as fast as I can for y'all's entertainment and giving advice.
And doing a nice job of it.
Thank you. You too.
Alex Taker says, who do you like better for the rest of the season, Julio Jones or Emmanuel Sanders?
Whoa.
I'm going to take Sanders. I don't have enough faith in that Falcons offensive line to protect.
4 or 5 starters down for the year.
Yeah. I'll take Sanders.
And
he's
you know
producing week to week.
It should be Julio Jones too, because the NFC South is
garbage.
It is just a smoking weenie hole. It is terrible. But
it's a garbage blossom.
It's a garbage blossom. It's the worst kind of garbage pile. Oh, boy. Alex, quick, turn on the garbage blossom. It was Alex Rogan.
Sure.
And the thing is, Emmanuel Sanders like, oh, well, you said there's so many options. Well, Julius Thomas hasn't been getting his. And I hate to say it, Welker is not a fantasy option anymore.
Done.
Just done.
Done.
It's been fun.
And I know it hurt you as a Patriots fan to see him leave when he did, but you know what? They cut bait at the right time.
I know, and they started the other guy that they actually had on their team who played wide receiver, played quarterback at Kent State, turned into an awesome Welker.
Yep.
The Edelmania. Oh, by the way, you're welcome for me telling you last week to get him off your bench after
Nicely
a couple
done.
cold weeks.
Nicely done. You say he always goes off against the Broncos, and you were right.
Ta-da!
2 touchdowns. And then let's close things out with a little bit of speculation. At Big Ozel says, this Peterson guy, Adrian Peterson, I presume. Yeah, I know. I feel bad too. I picked him up. What do you think about the situation? And
Well, the situation was the least of my favorite characters on the jersey.
nailed it.
My bad.
I'll tell you what. I picked up Adrian Peterson in something like 5 leagues this week, and shameless about it. Absolutely shameless, because I don't. Listen, I would start Adolf Hitler and Pol Pot every week if they got me 20 fantasy points per game.
Fine with that.
And it's not feelings ball, Nick.
Right.
You know, again, like, this is fantasy football. It's stupid. It's stat driven. You don't have to make big statements about what's right with your fantasy team.
No, this is not the place to take to the moral high ground. This is the place to get a job done, and that a job on something that it's not even real people. We're just having fun.
No.
And you know what? At the end of did he say he's sorry? Is he pleading to a lesser charge?
Yeah.
Is he probably a new man?
Maybe.
They're all criminals. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's excuse me. Sorry. All right, legal department. Allegedly.
Yeah, no. Again, like, I just don't concern yourself.
No.
It's your fantasy football team. It's not your. If you're playing fantasy football, you should not be steered with a moral compass in the first place. Like, don't worry about it.
Don't
Just
feel
go
bad
ahead
about
and
it.
pick up Adrian Peterson if you feel like he's going to be playing for the Vikings or any other team this year. Go ahead and pick him up.
Yeah.
Got the spot?
If anything, you should be excited about the fact that there's a good chance now that he was available and you might get 5 important games, including some of his tasty stretch run. Feel bad about it as you win hundreds of dollars in your fantasy league 6 weeks from now.
Oh, nice. I think that's a good.
Yeah. Feel bad about it when you're able to buy your son what you wanted to get him for Christmas because you picked up Peterson in week 10 off waivers.
There you go. I think that's a good point good note to leave things off this week.
I had a good time. I'm not sure about you.
Me too. Let's do it again next week.
All right.
All right.
I'll be here.
Thanks for watching. I'm Matt Ufford. That's Nick Stevens. We'll see you again next week.